He didn't finish that communication. There was all of a sudden a clicking sound. Pulsing sort of electronic.
On the evening of October 21st, 1978, a young Australian pilot embarked on what should have been a routine flight across Bass Strait, only to vanish in one of aviation's most perplexing mysteries. Frederick Valentich, just 20 years old, departed Melbourne's Moorabbin Airport at 6:19 p.m. in a rented Cessna 182L bound for King Island, a journey that would take him over some of the most treacherous waters in Australian aviation history. What began as a simple training flight transformed into something far more sinister when Valentich radioed air traffic control with a chilling report. An unidentified aircraft was pursuing him, exhibiting behavior unlike anything he'd ever witnessed. His final transmission, delivered in a voice tinged with confusion and fear, echoed through decades of investigation and speculation. Join us as we unravel the haunting disappearance of a pilot whose encounter with the unexplained led to his eternal vanishing. An aspiring aviator's troubled journey. Frederick Valentich's path to the cockpit was marked by determination shadowed by persistent setbacks. Born June 9, 1958, Valentich had harbored ambitions of soaring through Australian skies from an early age, joining the Royal Australian Air Force Air Training Corps in pursuit of his passion. But his dreams of military service were crushed not once but twice, as the RAAF rejected his applications due to inadequate educational qualifications. Undeterred, he pivoted towards commercial aviation, studying part-time to become a commercial pilot while accumulating flight hours. His academic record, however, remained a persistent obstacle to his aspirations. By the time of his disappearance, he had failed all 5 commercial license examination subjects twice, with his most recent attempt just a month before his final flight resulting in 3 more failures. His flying record was equally concerning to aviation authorities. With only 150 total flight hours and a Class 4 instrument rating that authorized night flying solely under visual meteorological conditions, Valentich was considered relatively inexperienced. More troubling were the incidents that dotted his brief flying career. Unauthorized entry into controlled airspace near Sydney, which earned him an official warning, and 2 separate occasions where he deliberately flew into the clouds, violations so serious that prosecution was being considered. According to his father, Guido Valentich, Frederick was consumed by an intense fascination with unidentified flying objects, collecting newspaper clippings about UFO sightings and watching extraterrestrial-themed films. This obsession had evolved into genuine fear, with Guido reporting that his son had become increasingly worried about being attacked by UFOs. Just 6 days before his disappearance, Valentich discussed with his girlfriend, Rhonda Rushton, the disturbing possibility of being taken away by a UFO. The final flight plan.
His planned route took him over the outskirts of Melbourne, past Cape Otway, to King Island in the Bass Strait.
The circumstances surrounding Valentich's final flight were shrouded in inconsistencies that later fueled speculation about his true intentions. On the afternoon of October 21st, 1978, he filed a flight plan at Moorabbin Airport for a night VMC flight to King Island, located in the Bass Strait between Victoria and Tasmania. The stated purpose, however, varied depending on whom he spoke with, creating the first red flag. To flight officials, Valentich claimed he was traveling to King Island to pick up friends who were waiting for him. Yet when speaking to others, he provided a different explanation, stating he intended to collect a shipment of crayfish. Subsequent investigations would reveal both explanations to be false, with no evidence of friends expecting his arrival or any crayfish shipment awaiting collection. Perhaps more significantly, he failed to inform King Island Airport of his intention to land there, a violation of standard procedure that raised questions about his true destination. The flight plan called for a 125 nautical mile journey following a prudent route that would minimize time over water. Rather than flying directly across the Bass Strait, standard procedure dictated flying southwest along the Victorian coast to Cape Otway, then turning south for the water crossing to King Island. This route, while longer, kept aircraft over land for the majority of the journey, with only an 85-kilometer stretch requiring flight over the potentially dangerous waters of Bass Strait. Weather conditions were ideal for the planned flight, with clear skies, excellent visibility, and light winds providing perfect flying conditions. The Cessna 182L was fully fueled, with approximately 5 hours of flying time available. The mysterious encounter unfolds.
And the conversation between Flight Service Officer Steve Roby and Fred indicates Fred was convinced he was being buzzed by a mysterious craft.
As it's flying past, it's a long shape, cannot identify more than that it has such speed.
As Valentich's Cessna crossed the coastline at Cape Otway and began its journey over the dark waters of Bass Strait, the routine flight took a dramatic turn. At 7:06 p.m., flying at 4,500 feet in the gathering dusk, he made contact with Melbourne Flight Service Officer Steve Roby with a request that would initiate one of aviation's most haunting radio transmissions. His first inquiry seemed routine enough, asking about known traffic below 5,000 feet. When Roby confirmed there was no known traffic at that altitude, Valentich's response introduced the first element of the extraordinary. He reported seeing what appeared to be a large aircraft below 5,000 feet, contradicting the official traffic information. The unknown aircraft, according to Valentich's description, was illuminated by 4 bright lights that resembled landing lights, making it clearly visible against the darkening sky. He reported that the craft had passed approximately 1,000 feet above him at high speed, behavior that seemed inconsistent with normal aircraft operations in the area. As the conversation continued, his tone grew more agitated as he described the aircraft's seemingly deliberate actions. The mysterious craft's behavior became increasingly erratic and threatening in Valentich's account. He reported it was approaching him from the east and suggested the other pilot might be, quote, purposely toying with him, language that indicated he believed the encounter was intentional rather than coincidental. The aircraft began orbiting above his Cessna, providing Valentich with a clearer view of its characteristics, which he described as having a shiny metal surface and displaying a distinctive green light. As the encounter intensified, he provided additional details that would become central to UFO investigators' theories. The craft appeared to be long in shape, though it was moving too quickly for him to provide more specific details about its configuration. After orbiting above him, the object vanished completely, only to reappear moments later, approaching from the southwest, demonstrating flight capabilities that seemed to exceed conventional aircraft performance. The situation deteriorated rapidly as Valentich reported experiencing engine problems, with his normally reliable Cessna beginning to run roughly and cough. His engine settings were normal at 2324, indicating proper power management, yet the aircraft was experiencing unexplained difficulties. In his final coherent transmission, he delivered the words that echoed through aviation history. "That strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It is hovering, and it's not an aircraft." The silence that followed. The abrupt termination of his radio communication marked the beginning of one of Australia's most intensive search and rescue operations, but also the start of an enduring mystery. At 7:12 p.m. and 28 seconds, after his final transmission, Melbourne Flight Service recorded 17 seconds of unexplained noise described as metallic scraping sounds before all contact ceased. They immediately declared an alert phase at 7:12. When Valentich failed to arrive at King Island, authorities escalated to the distress phase and launched comprehensive search operations. The response was swift and extensive, involving the Royal Australian Air Force, civilian aircraft, and maritime vessels. 2 RAAF Lockheed P-3 Orion aircraft joined 8 civilian aircraft in systematic search patterns over the vast waters. Ocean-going ships in the area were alerted and participated in the surface search. Despite ideal weather conditions that should have made any debris or survival equipment visible from the air, the search teams found no trace of the missing Cessna or its pilot. The enduring mystery. More than 4 decades later, the case remains unsolved. In 1983, an engine cowl flap from a Cessna 182 washed ashore on Flinders Island, potentially from Valentich's aircraft. But definitive identification proved impossible due to weathering. Government files released years later revealed that search aircraft had spotted a debris field during initial operations but lost sight of it. The astronomical explanation for the lights has gained acceptance among skeptics, but it fails to address all aspects of Valentich's account, including reported movement patterns and the metallic scraping sounds of his final transmission. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think really happened? Let us know in the comments section below.